about your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures, and then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. YSU still in the headlines. YSU has been in continued headlines merging with the tech world. Now, first it was a plan with Foxconn. Now the talk is about the university's business with the semiconductor industry to combat shortages in the industry. The university is partnering with about a dozen other universities in Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan in an effort to advance microelectronic research and innovation. This story is still developing. Story number 2. Downtown landmark ready to be reshaped. 20 Federal Street. The Desmond architectural firm of Pittsburgh is set to move forward with plans to revamp the former Farmore headquarters downtown. Tenants in the building were removed for the current work to take place. Now, according to a report published Wednesday, November 2nd, there will be 2 phases of the construction project on both the inside and the outside of the building. The front page Vindicator report is a must-read that even maps out some of the construction plans. This is all according to a $27.6 million SMART 2. Well, SMART 2 is that's SMART2, which stands for Strategic and Sustainable Medical and Manufacturing, Academic and Arts, Residential and Recreation and Technology and Training Network project. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. How many people are actually all for Ohio being in the electric vehicle race? Now, there are mixed reviews when it comes to the electric vehicle race in Ohio. There are still so many question marks after Ohio seeks proposals for electric vehicle charging stations. Story number 4. Lordstown Motor Corp and Foxconn looking forward to another big investment. Foxconn has agreed to invest up to $170 million more into Lordstown Motor Corp. Now, according to a report published November 8th, now the electric vehicle startup intends to use the money for its electric vehicle program in collaboration with the Taiwanese tech and electronic giants. So these are other electronic giants, especially the Taiwanese tech and other electronic giants in the business. That's why they're teaming up to make this happen. So Foxconn, these are all big investments. Now, the key word in this article is investment. The article does mention other power deals being made, but at the moment, with the company's stocks fluctuating and the continued focus on the energy war, the electric vehicle maker remains in the headlines. People are looking to the success of these 2 companies to impact the local economy by providing jobs. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Trumbull Energy Center is in the headlines. It will take energy to power the electric vehicle goals of the future, folks, and Trumbull Energy Center has secured financing to make those energy goals possible. Financing has been allocated for a $1.2 billion natural gas-fired plant. Now, according to a Vindicator article published November 4th, construction will begin in 4 to 6 weeks. Now, estimated time of construction is about 3 years, creating about 1,000 construction jobs, and will require about 2 million man-hours to make it a functioning facility, according to Clean Energy Future President Bill Siderowicz. Now, this is this is why the story made it in. It is still developing. Big headline. Story number 6. ARP funding still making headlines. Stories are still making headlines. Youngstown received $82,775,370 in ARP funds. $725,000 has been allocated for revitalization projects on Glenwood Avenue, Rockview Avenue, High and Bernard Streets. Now, land work and 3 new home construction projects are also in the works. Now, $53,824. These will be allocated for clearing lots, $30,000 for a mobile park in the First Ward. Now, the board has also approved a $160,000 budget to buy a former McDonald's restaurant at 2525 Market Street to turn it into a police substation. Now, according to a local article published November 4th, council voted April 6th to give each of its 7 ward members $2 million in ARP funds for their wards. Now, federal guidelines and frustrated council members is what has this story still trending. Council members have been waiting patiently for funding to improve their districts. The story is still developing. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 7 in the top 2. Local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Whew. I am doing this for the greater good of the public. I have to convince myself. I'm just an ordinary man trying to do some supernatural things by telling stories. That's what I've convinced myself. Story number 7. Farmers Bank reports are in for the 3rd quarter. And it's not good news so far. Now, an article published November 2nd in the Mediator highlights some very scary numbers on the banking books. Local Farmers National Bank reported a net income of $15.4 million in the 3rd quarter, according to the article. It's down. This is down from $16 million in the previous quarter, which is not good. Now, what got the story in is the recent decline in economic uncertainty. That means that it could be on the upswing, but the economic uncertainty is what got the story in. Now, deposits also fell from $3.63 billion at the end of June to $3.57 billion at the end of the 3rd quarter. Now, which could be due to the interest rates. This is all in the article. That's why this story is still developing. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top 2. When you're talking money, you're talking important stories. Big. Story number 8 at the top. Local headline and developing news story that made it this week for you to keep you informed. That's all I'm here to do. That's all I can do. That's all I want to do. That's all I have time to do now is look at stories to keep you informed. Story number 8. Big challenges ahead after the midterm elections, folks. After a hard-fought election, there are some fun facts in circulation and what has to be done to reach a complex goal. J.D. Vance and other candidates elected have to deliver on their energy independence plans, because a lot of people are looking forward to energy independence. Now, injection wells in news is also in the headlines. They may be having to make some explanations for that. Education is also on the drawing board. That's another big goal. Many local school districts, or in this district, local district around Mahoning County, are still under education watch, and taxpayers are looking for a return on their investment. There's been a lot of taxpayer money in the schools. Local spending, ward councilmen and women are still fighting for the local spending for funds needed for their districts. The energy push and electric vehicles station goals is also on the list. Spectators are very skeptical about the current push to go electric. This is all stuff on the agenda that these next elected officials have to think about. Now, the state justice system is also on the radar. Some feel that there needs to be harsher punishment for repeat offenders. These stories are still developing, and that's why they're in the news, because there's big challenges ahead after the elections. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories, so don't you go anywhere. You're in the meeting with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. Folks, I have learned a lot doing this show. And one thing that I'm learning is not to judge people that I have not met. And this is very, very big in what I'm learning. You see people on TV, you see like people like Biden or Trump or some of these celebrities. And I'm learning that if I haven't met them in person, it gives me no right to judge them, because they actually, when you sit down and have a conversation with them, you actually might see something that you like. Or hear something that you like. And I'm learning that about myself, because people often label me. You know, they may think that I'm a rotten person. And I'm starting to see this, you know. There are people who I grew up with, or I may see, or some people who I may have crossed paths with. Now, I'm not a perfect person, but I do care. I do try to give my all. I do try to work hard, even though I know I have some dysfunctionalities after serving for so long, thanks to Veterans Day that just passed. But I'm learning that people may have this perception that they can't get over. And that's the hardest part about doing this show, is that I may see people and I have to be presentable. And sometimes I may be having a hard day and I may have an evil look on my face, but I'm trying to keep up my, what they say, appearance in a positive outlet, even in these uncertain times we live in. I may see people out that I haven't seen in years, or see old girlfriends, relatives, and they may mean mug me. I'd be like, wow, what did I do? Did I say something wrong? But I have to keep pushing on for mediation. You know, I was in a farm, and when you talk about animals, even when you talk about judging people and talking about people, I had never seen alpacas before in my entire life. And one time we shot a movie scene on this farm, and I got to see some alpacas. And talking about judging people, this one alpaca was just, when he would see me, he would just get dysfunctional. So he'd start choking the other alpacas. But at the end of the day, when we got to bond, I found out that this alpaca was a fine young alpaca. He just had a little hyperventilation, just a little different. And that's what you see in America sometimes. People could be a little different, but you can't judge them. You just gotta analyze the good and take them for what they're worth, folks. Here comes a song for you. You've got to strut even when you don't see a smile. You've got to strut even when you're told not to stay a while. You've got to strut and smile even when you see a frown. Woo! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Yeah! You've got to strut, folks. Let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Speaking of strutting, what's behind Ye, formerly known as Kanye, Trump and Kyrie Irving's story? What's behind that? Big question. Kanye West, also known as Ye, and Kyrie Irving has made recent headlines after taking a stand on issues that they feel are relevant to the world. They said, now the sad details in the story is that what each party has stated is nothing new in the field of religious and descendant studies. That means people have descended from Jews and all this other stuff, African Americans and different tribes. But the real issue in circulation are the ripple effects of threats and what some feel is considered hate speech. So this is what the real problem is in this story. Not discrediting history. Now, after researching each party's claims about African American Hebrew tribes, that's Kanye and Kyrie, such claims have been backed up by scholars in the field for years. Now, this story has survived for a few weeks, now causing NBA players like Kyrie Irving to be suspended and Kanye to lose a number of deals, high-paying deals, and support. So this is a big story. This is big news in the media world, because they're accusing things, they're saying things. Now, such stories have kept people talking, but if it's causing an increase in hate crimes and activities, then there will continue to be problems either way. Now, Trump has also somehow been thrown into the mix again after making comments about Kyrie Irving. He stated after Trump has been in the headlines making comments about certain topics because he's been thrown in the mix, and then Kyrie Irving got thrown in the mix after another interview after he stated that they stated that their motives have nothing to do with hate speech, that they're not saying things they're trying to stir up the pot. This is what they've stated. But Kanye, on the other hand, has stressed his frustration with the Jewish community openly. That's why Stir Number One made it this week, because this is creating some big news and causing people to lose some money and causing a lot of confusion, where some of these people are just saying they're just trying to make valid points, but Kanye has gone on the record saying that he is frustrated. And this is why Stir Number One made it this week, because these are big time people who have big time money and they have people working for them. That's why Story Number One made it this week. Story number two: in hard and good times, journalists get stuck in the middle. Journalists are in the headlines after Iran has made national news because they're being accused of plotting to kill two journalists in the UK. I know we all remember Jamal Khashoggi. Now, journalists who have been kidnapped or detained have stayed in major headlines due to efforts to release valuable information to the public, especially in these times that we're in. A lot is going on and a lot of information is brewing. Now, such stories are staying alive and they're still developing. That's why story number two crept in this week. Story number three: the question of climate change and its impact on world climate still lingers. Yes, folks, climate change is still in the headlines and it's on a global platform. The headline is straightforward: developing countries want compensation for damage already sustained for climate change. And the story ends by stating with the statement that rich countries are not ready. So that means that they're making some big statements. Now, the article also hits on the major climate debatable talking points, like what is climate change still real? Some people still think it's not a problem, and some people don't think it's man-made. Now, this story deserves a read for anyone already informed about what's been taking place in the climate arena. The key word is anyone already informed. It may be a little odd for those people just getting affiliated or just getting understanding of it. Now, the uniqueness of this article has a lot to do with its focus on world affairs. The real concern is if the world is actually changing because of human behavior, if the climate is actually changing because of human behavior. BBC Science Focus magazine says that the world's largest science experiment continues to take shape. In France, the world's biggest fusion reactor is being built to prove theories of nuclear fusion and to combat carbon emissions. That means they're trying to somehow build a second sun, according to the story. The story is still developing. That's why number three crept in this week. Science is on the radar. Big head. Story number four: people are dying in America from alcohol abuse, according to a government report. One Fox News headline says that alcohol death rates are rising in the U.S., according to government reports. Drunk alcoholics have continued to be a thorn in the side of kids, families, and people battling with addiction. If you need help, find some help. First, you have to admit you have a problem. That's why this story is still developing, because a lot of people say they need that drink and they don't care who they need it. And that's why story number four is such a big headline, because a lot of people are abusing that drink and those bad habits. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international, top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made us week. Getting ahead of myself, I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. You're on the Mediator, Me Pro West. I'm right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. It goes to the website. It's method8inc.com, method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor the program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, the hardest part about being a male, I'm not going to lie to you, is the constant thinking of females. And in America right now, it's really, really hard. I mean, it's hard for males out there. It really is, you know. I mean, every 5 minutes, probably more than that, you're thinking about the love, the compassion, the touch of a female. It can get a little scary, you know. I mean, it gets so bad to where you want to talk about it. You know, you're talking to your psychologist about different visions, different dreams you had. And you know, she's sitting there and she's talking to me. She says, well, how you doing today, Brian? How you feeling? You know, have you had any thoughts? And I say, no, I want to go to church with Condoleezza Rice. Huh? Huh? She looks at me, what? Condoleezza Rice? Do you know who Condoleezza Rice is, Brian? And that's where the conversation begins to turn. And I try to correct myself. And I see her writing things down. This is my psychologist, the woman I talk to. I tell her about these visions of talking to certain women and being around them, socializing, and being at church with Condoleezza Rice. She looks at me and well, Brian, we're going to put you on some meds. So that's when I close up shop. Because I don't want to be drugged for wanting to be close to women. Folks, I don't want to be drugged for wanting to go to church. Condoleezza Rice. And that's what's going on. Males are being drugged for wanting to be blessed, for wanting to be in the presence of women. America is not what it used to be in some categories, but I think it's normal. I'm starting to believe that it's normal. And I can't fight it anymore. Folks, I read Condoleezza Rice's book, and I want to go to church, to the mountaintop with Condoleezza. That's my confession. Yes, I'm not a perfect man. I do feel the vibes of wanting some companionship. And I want to go to church with certain females. To the altar where his name is. Bless his holy name. Condoleezza Rice. Well, folks, let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Glad I got that off my chest. The flu and COVID still have the medical industry hanging on. If we didn't know much about the medical industry, folks, we know some things now. We know a lot. The flu is now in the headlines. U.S. hospital flu cases have now hit a 10-year high as vaccinations fall. U.S. influenza hospital admissions have also hit the highest rate in decades as vaccinations sag. Now, this is according to a BBC report. Now, what got the story in is the fact that health officials are very worried, because at least 730 people have died of the flu this year, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. This story is still developing. Let's hope that they get a grasp on these viruses, or diseases, Story number 6, emergency response times on the radar. Talking about energy, you need energy to respond. Emergency response times have stayed in the headlines, folks. Chicago police took 2 hours to respond after shots were fired during an attempted business burglary, according to a Fox News report. Now, this is not the first time, because in the state of Ohio, tax levies for ambulance service have remained in the headlines because people are saying that they're not getting a good response time in emergencies, and that's not good. Now, this story shows that emergency response times remains in the headlines and in the news and on the radar. That's why story number 6 made it this week. Almost made it to the top 2. That's wild. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2. International headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, I have never used drugs. I've never drunk anything in my life but water and juice. I've never smoked weed, never smoked the Buddha. And I think that's why I feel up to par to give you the top 8, because I'm clean in the name of the holy and blessed Lord. Oh, Lord, bless you, Lord. He has blessed me to be here with you. And I'm thankful. I almost didn't make it. It was just Veterans Day. I almost didn't make it to see this time. And I'm happy. And I'm thankful, folks. I feel blessed. Story number 7. Public schools in the headlines. New reports about public school exodus have been in and out of the headlines, according to Bloomberg. New York City's kids, they're saying that they are still leaving public schools in what is called the pandemic-fueled exodus. This is now, they're saying that enrollment in the world's largest school district is down 1.8% in 2022. Now, the report goes on to point out how public schools lost nearly 100,000 pupils, students, or about 10% enrollment since the 2019-2020 school year, according to the data. Now, in a push to improve and increase education awareness, this story is still developing. That's why it made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 8 at the top. Whew. International headline and developing news story. Get up, get on up, stay on the scene. I like a story machine. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Ooh, yeah, don't you feel it? The big payday, baby. Yeah, story number 8. Got to get excited. Almost done. Story number 8. Lots of work to be done after the election, folks. Just a lot of work to be done. Whatever the focus is, now after another election, some of us got smarter and some of us didn't budge. Our thoughts didn't budge because most things actually stayed the same. Not too much change after the election. People thought it was going to be a red wave. There wasn't. Now, what is evident is the fact that things remain pretty balanced in Washington and the obstacles ahead still remain challenging. America has to recover financially. America has to fix its continued inflation and cost problems. America has to fix its ballooning education problems. And America still has growing border concerns. A new energy war is also ballooning out of control, and the strategy to engage remains even more complex. The work ethic is what a lot of people are talking about still. Foreign affairs stories are also still dominating major headlines in the Russia and Ukraine saga. The truth is, folks, that nothing is what it seems, and there is still a war going on between the informed, the uninformed, and the ill-informed. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I like to thank all the news outlets, the media, the people on the front lines, the journalists. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator, the little man stuck in the middle trying to make sense of this cruel world, but trying to stay optimistic. If you wanted to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you have to do is engage, be active, buy something, go to the website, visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program, or stop at the store at 5648 Market Street and just make some conversation with me, maybe buy something in the store, get some services. All of it goes back into programs like this. Well, folks, I'm out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories. I hope you had a good Veterans Day, spent time, and acknowledge those who served. I served, so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful to still be here, still have some brain power left. Well, folks, I'm out of here. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the meeting with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.